say, for example, like moving stuff out of your freezer,
Mm-hmm.
or like, okay, no, okay. One kind of example is when you
Did he
return home.
trap? I'm sorry. Wait. Did Jarens trap his old body? Is this one of his old characters? Is this an old Randy Marsh who died?
Oh yeah, that's his Randy Marsh exhibit. Is it still there?
Yeah, I can see the
I thought
zombie in
that
there. He's still dressed like Randy.
it's cool. It's amazing how he even got it trapped in there. Oh, or did he just
I assume he just like died in
died?
there.
Oh yeah, okay.
He probably just he took his pants off too. Yeah, I assume he just like got bit and just built it around himself and then died in there. Creative just said that AI is the Antichrist, and I find it interesting because I think that there's a little more. I personally think there is a bit more nuance with AI. I don't think it's like. I don't think we need to see it as completely evil, but I think it's AI. Oh shit, is representative of us and our internet culture in a way that can make us uncomfortable.
Does he mean AI is the Antichrist as the biblical element, or Antichrist as in just something generically evil?
I assume just generically. What in the world? I'm assuming he means just generically evil. That's the sentiment I feel like I hear online a lot. Anyway, that's why I'm assuming that.
AI is just a tool, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a shovel. Okay, with shovels you use for construction work, gardening, except for the mob who uses them to bury bodies. It's all on who wields it. It's a tool, and a tool is only as dangerous as the person wielding it. AI is a tool, so it depends on who's programming this tool or using this tool, whether it's going to be dangerous or not.
But isn't that a question we should be asking? Does that not invite the idea that we should be looking more closely at who is wielding and who is programming this tool?
Yeah, well, the problem with that is you can't. What I may see is okay, moral, or fine. You may look at it and go, "That's wrong," or you may look at it and go, "Well, you're way too uptight about this." Or
I gotta be honest. I hear way too many people these days using that as a cop out. I hear way too many people. The personal pet peeve, totally personal, but I gotta say, I hear way too many people these days who try to be like, oh, well, who knows what's really right or what's wrong or anything like that, because, we all have personal preference. Like, no, but like, the first step toward creating comprehensive legislation, especially around things or a communal sense of how a particular tool should be used, the first step should be identifying, okay, what are the things we do agree on, and let's make sure those get done now, and we'll keep going from there. Like, what is evil about AI that we agree on, that we can be like, no, AI shouldn't do this. This is bad. This is, like college students not using AI for their tests. We agree that's bad. We agree they shouldn't do that. That should be curtailed in some way, right?
So how do you stop somebody from programming this stuff who's either, some kind of weird xenophobe or a zealot or, just crazy from making one of these AIs and then just release it?
How do you?
The problem is you can't.
So you think you should just give up?
Well, no,
Let AI be what it is?
There's no way to combat that at all.
There's no way to combat it, so you think we should just give up?
Well, you can't regulate something that you can't, get a hold of. And you can't enforce a law that you can't regulate.
So you think we should just give up?
In general on that, yeah, you just have to let it eventually play out. It's going to be the Wild West for quite a while. And until, it reaches a certain point where it can be controlled, until we get the tools to control it, it's just going to be the Wild West. That's how it works.
Okay. I'm not a fan of it being the Wild West. I think we should attempt to have some kind of good, positive, comprehensive legislation, at least covering the things that, again, we agree are bad uses of it, such as limiting its ability to be used for cheating. We should do those things. It doesn't have to be entirely... It's only the Wild West if we collectively agree it's the Wild West and just let it be the Wild West. Our lawmakers are perfectly capable of crafting good legislation when they want to.
But again, you can't, even if you legislate, it's like, okay, let's say we legislate that you can't have a ham sandwich on Tuesday. Now, how are we going to enforce that you are not going to be able to have a ham sandwich on Tuesday?
Well, fortunately, we're not trying to legislate that. We're just trying to stop people from gaining access to a pretty expensive and technology. Actually, it's a pretty.
Well, no, I mean, my point is that if anybody can make a ham sandwich, and it's Tuesday, unless you put cameras in and watch everybody all the time.
If I make a joke about Alexei Navalny, would anyone get the reference?
And unless you have some kind of weird way to stop people from having ham on Tuesdays, there's still going to be ham sandwiches on Tuesday.
Well, fortunately, and you may not know this, Saul, AI is not actually a ham sandwich.
Well, my point is that you can't you can make any legislation you want, but if you can't back it up and you can't enforce it, it doesn't matter.
I have that same question about when I read about certain states have like sodomy laws or like some like whatever laws that are
Blue laws.
controlling how you have sex.
Blue laws are the weird laws that, like, you can't buy, pantyhose on Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a general thing. Let's let Kinji get back to his point.
How do you enforce those things?
Well, most people kind of don't.
It's the same idea as your sandwich example.
Yeah,
right? Like,
that's
how
the
do you
point.
enforce
I mean, most places don't really enforce it. It's kind of an honor system. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Like you're posing a weird sort of like fantasy example of the sandwich thing, but like this is real world. These are real world things, right? Like how do you enforce those kind of laws? Unless you have someone standing in the corner watching.
This is a Survivor House.
Business, like,
wait, is it?
Well, there used to be a law in, I think it was Massachusetts or Maine. It was illegal to have illicit thoughts in public.
Probably. That sounds like Maine.
Yeah. Now, how are you going to enforce this?
Maine.
Right?
Shockingly redneck for how far north it is.
Unless you got a bunch of telepaths running around reading people's minds, this is going to be kind of hard to enforce.
I get what Kinji's saying here, that it's like he's agreeing with you that like at the end of the day, the government can't really enforce these ridiculous laws, and therefore it's certainly arguable that they shouldn't try if it's going to be some ridiculous uphill battle. There's definitely an argument to that. What I would say personally, as far as AI specifically, is that, again, we should start with the things that we know that we want to be we know that we want to enforce, like college students not cheating. Oh, sorry, Allie, we're talking about AI. Like college students not cheating using AI. Fortunately, that does not actually require you to have a crazy technological, solution. You would just have to use ethical standards or have more. There is some technological stuff like AI scans, which are kind of hit or miss right now, as far as making sure that college students aren't using it on their work. There are real world things we don't want AI to do or be used for. Let's start with trying to take care of those, and then we'll build from there. No, I'm not talking about a ban by any means.
Let me make this clear, though. My comment on the enforcing particular laws, I wasn't actually referring to the AI portion of it all. I was just responding to when he was talking about the sandwich thing. So I do want to make a comment on when he said it was AI is a tool. And yes, I do agree with him in that AI is a tool, and it is down to how it's being used. But like, I mean, as a real world example, there is a reason why. Sorry, excuse me, got something in my throat. There is a reason why the UK, like, you can't walk around town with a kitchen knife in your pocket, even though a kitchen knife is a tool, right?
Yeah, to give somebody a London hello.
You can't make a delicious dish without a good kitchen knife.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tool. But at the same time, you can't go walking around town with a kitchen knife.
Yeah.
Right? So you do have to regulate your tool at the end of the day. Even though it is a tool, tools still can be regulated because they can be a hazard or a harm to other people depending on how you use that tool.
Good point.
I'm not saying you can't. I disagree with him that you say you can't regulate it just because it's a tool and it's just how you use it. Like, it's still a problem nonetheless.
Well, why I'm saying you can't regulate is not because it's not regulatable. The problem here is we don't have the ability to regulate it yet.
Yeah, but I
how the internet used to be.
My issue with that is I feel like you're a little too... Well, okay. This is something I feel like a lot of those who are invested in the really technical aspect of AI are overseeing. Like, they're trying to say, like, oh, well, you can't regulate it because it's the technology is, like, too advanced for our regulators and whatnot. And there is something of a truth to that because our regulators are letting it be that way or letting you believe that because they're lazy. But at the end of the day, with things like, again, we don't want college students cheating using AI. Curtailing that does not require necessarily a technological solution. It requires moral solutions and perhaps more effective ways of building trust with the student body to stop them from wanting to use tools like these. You wouldn't need a technological solution for a lot of what I'm suggesting here as far as regulation. You would need to find ways to get people to want to follow the law in that way. Sorry, go ahead.
Rich, do you trust the people in your government to have people that are able to regulate, that know enough to regulate this stuff? I mean, do you remember the whole meme about the internet being a series of tubes?
The internet is not something that you just dump something on. It's not a big truck. It's a series of tubes.
We should always approach our government with a degree of skepticism. Yes, the government is inept, but unfortunately, everyone here, outside of a few lurkers in chat, we all live in democracies, and at least in part, we shouldn't simply say, well, the government's, shrug our shoulders and say the government's inept, when we do live in an antique oven. Oh, fuck yeah. Sorry, we shouldn't just, at that point, we should not just throw up our shoulders and say, well, I guess it's just beyond us. You know?
No, I'm not saying that we should just roll our shoulders, but I'm saying there's a progression to this. Step one should be to have people in the know that's able to answer the right questions, or even maybe just have people that would ask the right questions to answer.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, voting good people into office.
One.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
Rather than, having old folks that don't know nothing about technology with what's left or right?
Yeah. Oh, did you ever see that footage of Ted Cruz roasting the fuck out of Mark Zuckerberg, though?
I haven't seen that.
Dude, yeah, certain media sources really did not want that getting reported on. But dude, I recommend that video. I'm gonna put that shit... If someone could put that on the Discord, if not, I will later. Because that shit was funny as hell. Saul, did you see that? That was...
That'll be a
it was amazing.
Instagram also displayed the following warning screen to individuals who were searching for child abuse material. These results may contain images of child sexual abuse. And then you gave users two choices: get resources or see results anyway. Mr. Zuckerberg, what the hell were you thinking?
All right, Senator. The basic science behind that is that when people are searching for something that is problematic, it's often helpful to, rather than just blocking it, to help direct them towards something that that could be helpful for getting them to get help.
In what, I understand get resources. In what sane universe is there a link for see results anyway?
When we think that there's any chance that the results
you might be wrong. Let me ask you, how many times was this warning screen displayed?
I don't know, but
you don't know. Why don't you know?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. But
you know what, Mr. Zuckerberg? It's interesting you say you don't know it off the top of your head, because I asked it in June of 2023 in an oversight letter, and your company refused to answer.
Oh my God, he's going after Zuckerberg specifically for Meta's issues with CP. Yeah, and he was not kind. And that is a subject where you should not be kind. It was amazing. Why is this
like I was saying, when it comes to AI, I think AI is kind of like how prohibition worked. There was a prohibition officer that used to go around and, he'd see how long it takes for somebody to offer him, alcohol.
I remember that.
Prohibition.
New Orleans won, if I remember correctly, yeah.
Yes.
The taxi driver offered him a drink.
As soon as he got there, they offered him a drink in like 5 seconds of getting into place, man. It was ridiculous.
I do think that comparing AI to something as fundamental to American culture as alcohol is perhaps not an accurate comparison.
No, what I was saying is that, like Prohibition, there's going to be a problem enforcing this rule.
Oh, thank God.
Not because it's not enforceable, but because, first of all, the government's not going to want to spend enough
Wait,
money.
it's not. Wait. Not because it's not enforceable. Are you saying it could be enforceable hypothetically?
Yeah, with the right tools and enough people, you
All
can
right.
enforce most
Hey,
stuff.
we found common ground. There is legislation on AI that is enforceable in theory if you have talented people making it. Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, if you have the tools to track to make sure this stuff is not being used improperly,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, you got to build some of these tools, and you got the people to enforce it. But the problem here is the government's going to go, well, we don't really want to spend money on this because we're spending money on all this other stuff over here. So we're going to, kind of give you, 10, 15 people here, or maybe 100 over there, and we want you to enforce these. But you ain't going to have no funding, and there's only going to be like 100 of you, kind of like they did with Prohibition. And there's no way you can enforce it because it's like,
Well,
the one thing
unfortunately,
for
we
yourself-
live in a democracy, so
Well-
that kind of falls on us. If the government is weak and ineffective and unable to do its job, that's something that we need to be talking about, which we are, by the way. And thank you guys for taking part in the conversation. What a weird Project Zomboid stream for us to be talking about this so in depth, but it's so fun.
well, I was saying it's kind of like an
let me
oversimplified.
maybe try to get onto Saul's side a little bit and maybe try to defend his position a little bit, but more just so I can get a good understanding, right? Maybe correct me if this is your position, Saul, but maybe we should be
Oh, you gotta be kidding
getting
me.
used to maybe we should be getting used to the fact that Pandora's box is already open, right? We can't stop the tide that's already coming, right? Because I mean, if you look at prohibition, like everything that has been regulated so far, be it guns, alcohol, drugs, whatever, it will always find a underground position, right? There's no way around it.
I don't know if I would agree with
Always-
always.
Oh, it always.
I
is.
think in Prohibition,
There it is.
again, alcohol is a very fundamental part of American culture. And I don't
Well, you
think
had
that all
speakeasy-
I
you
don't
had
think that
speakeasy
AI
coming
is
up all over the
necessarily
place.
comparable.
Well,
Personally.
okay, think about this. Okay, guns were even if guns, were banned in certain areas, they're still there. No matter what, guns still get their way in. They banned drugs, and they had a war on drugs for how many years? And there were still drugs
Still a
pretty
problem
much
today.
everywhere. Yeah,
Still a problem today.
there's still an underground market for it. It's not going anywhere. They banned tons and tons of things, and every time they banned them, all they do is just make an underground market for it, and then people just still get it.
So you think people
So
are going to
it's
like
not
go to
gonna-
like dodgy alleyways to get their fix of AI?
Well, no, they'll just go underground and get it from like
AI
basically the
speakeasies?
dark web.
It's like
Well, that's
like
just
what a
what, like,
LAN
dark
party
web
was
is.
20 years ago, like just like AI speakeasies where they go and program.
Pretty
Well, no,
much.
they just go to the dark web to like forums that because they've got this stuff now.
I mean, again,
Places
though,
not-
that's the thing. Like, you guys seem to think I'm advocating for, at least it seems that way, like, any kind of, first of all, I'm not a fan of this word ban. I'm not saying ban. I don't want the word ban thrown around for what I'm saying here. But
Oh, no,
some
I
kind
don't
of,
think you're
and
trying to
again,
have anything
I'm
to do.
talking about, like, non-technological, realistic, like, regulation on things like, again, going back to the example, college students using AI to cheat. That's something that does not require a technological solution in order to do that. That requires building trust with the student body. It requires more fundamental change to the academic system that could be, in the long run, good for the system as a whole. That's not... I'm not saying there needs to, like, we need to have, like, a fancy technological, like, advanced, like, a Chinese-style, like, great firewall to, like, keep people from using
Actually,
AI.
Wrong. To me, you're kind of wrong on that. You said that they don't need a technical solution for that, but they do. Okay, let's say me and you are both in the same class. I decided to use AI to write whatever story or program or whatever it is I'm doing. Okay, you do it manually by yourself. How are they going to be able to check that mine is done by AI?
Well, they're probably
I mean, they
not.
can't-
That's why I would not advocate for a technological solution. I would advocate for, specifically again, attempting to build trust with students and try to prevent them from wanting to use AI, making sure they feel comfortable and have all the tools that they need, and then accept that a certain number of them will always cheat, because they always will.
Yeah. Well, just say I'm shady and lazy and I just don't care. I mean, if I'm just shady and lazy, it ain't gonna matter.
Well,
Because no matter
cheating
what
happens
kind
now,
of
so
trust-
these zombies are falling over a lot.
I was just saying, no matter what the trust you build up between you and your student, if this dude over here is just shady and lazy, it ain't gonna matter.
I mean, yeah, there's
He's
always
still
going to be a
gonna do
certain
it.
degree of failure rate.
My point
God, there's a
here
lot of
is
these
you're gonna
fuckers.
need, my point is you're gonna need some kind of technical solution. So, okay, you know, some way to check to see if this is an AI written program. Like there got to be some kind of like identifying code in there, or some kind of marker, so you would know that this is an AI piece of code, or this is AI written. So there's no way out of it. Kind of like when you try to get a picture from I don't know like
But
John
that
Stock's
stuff
photos,
can
and they
be
put like
bypassed.
John Stock's photo on right across it, so you can't get it from and just put it on your page without paying for it.
Now, see, that's funny you mention that because that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. They know a certain number of people will steal their photos, but they still put that watermark on the photos because it will at least dissuade enough people that people will still, on average, pay for it and engage in the behavior they would prefer. So that's actually exactly what I would be hoping for, you know?
Oh, yeah. See,
Yeah,
I wasn't quite done with my point at that time.
Oh,
right?
I'm
'Cause,
sorry.
Like, I was saying with in a point agreeing with Saul that it is going to be very difficult to regulate and control, but at the same time, even attempting to regulate and control it does create a sort of like hurdle. It may not be a barrier, but it's a hurdle that they'll have to jump over, and that could dissuade a lot of people.
Yeah.
Anyway, it may not dissuade everyone that has the will to do nefarious things, but it would at least dissuade a certain percentage of people and make it more of a tenable world to live in, right?
Yeah. You know, if you can keep like 20% of your student body from cheating, that's still 20% who are actually learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the goal,
Exactly.
as many as possible.
Like if we talk about the drug war, yeah, there's always going to be an underground source for drugs, but does that mean we're going to just completely give up on the war? Like, no, we are at least reducing it by what, like 10% or 50%?
Yeah, I mean there was a very large statistical drop in drug use due to the drug war. It had its own issues, and its long-term effectiveness has been up for other aspects such as the rising prison population, the school to prison pipeline we talk about. There are many long-term issues with it that need to be talked about as well, but our streets did actually become safer in the war on crime. People did use drugs less thanks to the war on drugs on average. Like, but still, do I think they went about it right in either of those cases? No. But let's learn from it as a nation and do better. That should be the goal. God, there's a lot of these fuckers. God, I played on high population.
I mean, I look at it and go, well, I do wish and hope everybody uses it in a nice way and properly, and doesn't use it for any kind of evil purposes.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know any way we could legally enforce this, as far as with technology or a law that could actually be enforced right offhand.
Well,
even though I wish
that is
they
why
would all
we
use it for
elect
most
talented
ethical
bureaucrats,
purposes.
preferably, and legislators. That is the goal.
But then my next question will be to ask is, just because I see something as ethical, does that mean that everybody else agrees with me?
No, but that's the whole point of voting. We all vote for what we think is right. That's the whole point. And somewhere along the line, we figure out a happy medium we all like. That is sort of the fundamental promise of democracy. Not that we'll always agree, but that we will find some kind of consensus that makes us all happy, preferably. That is the promise of democracy.
As a kind of offhand example, I guess, something like, printing machines, like printers, or Xeroxes, or even like photo editing, like Photoshop, for example, or Paintshop, whatever. They have
HP money printing machine.
Exactly. They have built-in protections against printing money, right? They'll detect whether or not you're printing a dollar bill, and they'll just say no.
Oh, well, the thing is like,
I mean, of course.
There's
that's
also
something to be
another one
bypassed,
that's
right?
interesting
It's
is
still
the
a very-
requirements of vitamins in flour that help prevent a lot of malnourishment in the Western world. In America, we're required to have vitamin A in our bread that help prevent a lot of children from going blind. There's some really interesting stories about that, actually.
Iodized salt is another example of that.
Yeah, but what if the person that gets voted in is going to be one of those people?
That happens. In fact, statistically, you're probably going to lose an election at least once. Just ask the Democrats. Statistically speaking, you're probably going to lose a few times in the course of your life and have to deal with a politician you don't like running a place that you care about. It happens. Welcome to life. Welcome to democracy. 101. It happens. You deal with it, and you make the best of it, and you try to work with those people as best you can.